Haven't made an update in a little while. So we just got our first real cold front. It's probably been about 4 or 5 days of very low 40s and one night that hit 39 here. And I want to show you guys the differences in cold damage on the different types of coconuts I have and why some might have more than others. So first up is the Fiji dwarf. You guys that have watched for a while know I've had this is its third growing season in the ground. It's getting pretty big. Stands at probably 15 feet now. This is something that will be hard to protect if we get a big freeze. But with those several days in the low 40s, there were some strong winds as well. So you got to account for wind chill, and a night at 39. It was 45 this morning. It's probably about 50 degrees right now. It's warmed up a little bit, but I want to show you guys that there is virtually no damage on my Fiji dwarf. It took it like a champ. I'd confidently say that if we got a light freeze, that it would come out looking almost fine. I mean, obviously there'd be burn, but I think this one would survive a freeze or two without protection. And this is kind of what happens when you get an established coconut palm. It's been in the ground for a couple years. It's well established. It's because last year and the previous years we've had this same kind of almost a week of like 40s, and it would get this brown spotting, and it doesn't have it this year. It's stronger than it was last year. It's doing a lot better, and I was surprised that there was no cold damage. Now we're going to move over to the green Malayan. This one's been in the ground probably a little over a month. It was dug out of a field and planted here. So this you have to account for. It's not established. It takes 3 full years for a palm to establish when you plant it in the ground. So when we account for that and the fact that it's already stressed from not being planted in the ground longer, and the soil temps are dropping amongst everything else, we can look and we see all this black spotting and severe necrosis of the tips. I mean, this was not here a few days ago. You go back a couple days and there was none of this. You just get a lot of this damage, and you could see this here, and you can see the brown spotting. All that is potassium deficiency, usually, which is usually what my Fiji dwarf, I don't know if I did a video in previous years, that brown tattered spotting is like potassium deficiency is usually what my Fiji dwarf has, but it doesn't. This one is pretty damaged for only a few nights at 40, and we aren't even in December, so that's something that kind of, if we get a big freeze, probably below 30, this one either is gonna look really bad, or if it survives, or it might even die. It doesn't have that establishment behind it like the Fiji dwarf does. Now we give this another year, and it should handle the cold much better. We give it the same establishment as the Fiji dwarf, and it might keep up with the Fiji dwarf. This is just a classic green Malayan, and I've seen them do much better in the cold, but that's with establishment and proper care, going into the winter healthy and not stressed. When you put a stressed palm already, or an unhealthy palm, into cold weather, they tend to take more damage and they'll die off easier. So it's important that if you're zone pushing any palm, that before it goes into winter, make sure your palms are healthy, well fertilized, and that's really about it. So we'll walk over and I'll show you guys the red spicata. That's another one that's kind of in between, and I'll show you guys that because it doesn't look too bad. But what I want to show you guys is this back here. A little bit of necrosis and black streaks, but it's not bad. It's kind of like a in between the Fiji dwarf and the green Malayan. Now this one is obviously, since it's your red and gold coconuts are going to be your least cold hardy, so obviously this one's going to take more damage regardless, but it actually fared pretty well. This one also has 3 growing season establishment behind it, so that's another thing why it does better than the previous years. It's done better. And then we'll talk about some newer establishments. Now the germinated coconut, this should have been Panama tall, but Panama tall coconuts are more round. This is likely a Jamaican tall with the large ovoid coconut with the point at the end. Newly germinated, and you're talking several days in the 40s and 39, undamaged. It's undamaged, which is that came as a real surprise to me, and it might have something to do with a little bit. I mean, if we look up, you got a little bit of canopy, so it probably stays a little warmer under here, just a little bit. And I don't think it makes a massive difference because it's not directly over them, but it is in the area, which is why most of my coconuts, the young ones, are under here. They don't get full sun either. They get part sun at best. We'll take a walk over and look at the Jamaican tall that's been planted since the spring, and I mean, you can kind of see there's just like maybe a couple black spots, maybe some very, very minor black streaks, but you really have to look for them. Like, there's one. But the cold damage, if I'm looking at that correctly, on the spear, I don't think I can get to it. There's a lot of streaks and some brown spots down by the spear. I think there might have been some water down there and it got too cold, because that looks to be where the damage is on this one. Other than that, it fared really well. Another thing that fared really well is this has only been planted a couple weeks. This was planted, I think, a day or two before Hurricane Milton, and I mean, it looks brand new. The damage is so minimal. This is a Jamaican tall, so Jamaican talls handle cold. The tall type should handle cold better than your dwarfs and regular coconuts. They usually tend to fare better and they grow faster, so especially in the springtime you'll notice the difference because they bounce back from any cold damage quicker. You get a little bit of, looks like, well, this is the lowest frond actually. This one's already been dying off, but the cold's kind of aiding that. That frond should probably die for the next few weeks. But that is the differences in cold tolerance and kind of a little bit of data to back that up between the first cold front we've had and it being in the low 40s for several days, strong wind, and a night that at 39. I think it was supposed to be 43 and it hit 39. It went colder than expected. There's the whole coconut tree from here. Still looks good overall. I don't think it'll be too bad after winter if we don't have many more nights in the 30s and if we don't get a freeze. If we get a freeze, I'm going to say the green Malayan's going to have a long recovery to it. I think the Fiji dwarf, if we don't get a freeze, it should be in really good shape to possibly flower next year. Because, I mean, the trunk's gotten pretty big and we've got a little bit of wood. And, I mean, on this side too, got some more wood. So, I'm awaiting for it to flower. So they can flower at low ground level, so be exciting to have another fruiting coconut. That one, of course, it has its coconuts on it, but if this one can do it too, I'll have two. Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to show you guys the cold damage that set in, and if you guys have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. And I'll see you guys in the next update.